Do you struggle with focus mode? Let me show you a little tip that has made my life so much easier when fighting monsters in Monster Hunter Wilds. Come into the options and go to controls and then down to aim focus controls. By default, this is set to type 1. This is where you have to hold down the trigger to enter focus mode. But type 2 allows you to just toggle focus mode on and off with the press of the trigger instead of having to hold it down. I will say this did take a bit to get used to, but I do now much prefer it over the other option. Another thing to note is that you do need to toggle it back off before you can start sprinting, but once you get used to that little hiccup there, it's way better to use focus mode like this. Today, let's go over some really important settings I think a lot of you guys could benefit from changing up. Some of these have been a complete game changer, like the circuit auto sprinting when called and the item wheel setting. If there are any settings I missed, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys are using and what you guys have changed yourselves. But let's get started with the field of view settings. Pull that camera distance up, man. There is no need for you to have your camera that close to your character when fighting these gigantic monsters that take up the entire screen. This goes up to 10, but honestly, it would be great if it go higher. I'd definitely like to pull my field of view out as far as possible, especially in these kinds of games. There are some situations where you just need to see more of the area, and we don't really have that option at the moment. There are other settings here you can mess with if you want to, like the camera shake and the focus camera options. I don't like a lot of movement in my camera, so I do have my camera shake set to 1, and for the focus camera, I have mine enabled. What this does is it locks the camera onto your targeted monster and will help keep it in your view. These are all just preferences, but I highly recommend pulling the camera back as far as you can just to help with the game just being better in general. Another tip is to go to your settings and click on that subscribe button. Most of you are new here, and we will be making plenty of Monster Hunter videos and guides when the game does drop, and you do not want to miss those, so make sure you're subscribed. Thanks. The minimap by default has this little slant to it to better show the height and depth of your location and the areas that you're in. I'm going to be honest here, I'm not a huge fan of this, so I changed it to fixed overhead. This gives it the classic overhead view while exploring, but it will still keep the 3D style when you do open up the full map, so you can get a better idea where you are, where exactly your monsters are above or below you, how far they are away from you, and things like that. Another personal preference here is to set the rotation to fixed. That way the minimap is always pointing north and is not rotating with you. This is a game changer for me because I get lost pretty easily in these kinds of games, or just in games in general, so having the option to have the minimap always facing one direction keeps me on track of where I need to go. This setting is an absolute game changer for me. When you normally summon your mount, it immediately begins to sprint forward without you asking it to or controlling it. This is incredibly infuriating to me, and little did I know there's a solution sitting here in the settings for it. Go to the options, go to page 2 of the controls. Here is a setting to change the mount to only move when called upon, when you control it instead of it controlling you. That's it. This is so much better. This is incredible. This should be on by default. I don't know why it's not. I'm not sure if anyone else has this issue with the item wheel not recognizing your selection when in combat, or if it's just me, but it's gotten me killed a couple times when trying to heal. Thankfully, there's an easy fix for this in the settings. Go to controls. At the very bottom of page 1, there's a item use controls setting. Change this to type 2. This will have you click your thumbstick to confirm the selection instead of just releasing it when you're hovered over it. Because sometimes when you're hovered over it, the game or your thumbstick just doesn't recognize it, or you end up letting go of the button before you can use your item. If you click it, you can confirm it. It's much easier this way. Much better. How many of you have accidentally sheathed your weapon when trying to attack by accidentally pressing the R1 or RB button that is sprint? I have a few times, and the monsters have immediately taken advantage of it and knocked me around like a little ragdoll. So to stop this from happening, go into your settings and change the dash controls from both the thumbstick and the bumper to only be the left thumbstick. This is by default how most games are, where you sprint with the left thumbstick by clicking it in, and this should really be on this way by default, but here you go. If this is a problem for you, I hope this helps. If you guys have found this video helpful, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel to not miss out on any other Monster Hunter Wilds content. When this game does eventually drop, we'll be covering it heavily. I'm making guides, tips, tricks, all that stuff. This game is incredible. I've been playing a beta like crazy. I do have a video here for some tips for beginners if you're new to the franchise like myself, so if you want to check that out, here's that as well. As always, y'all be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.